You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This podcast is sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. It's not about the destination. It's about going someplace you never thought possible. Go to imaginenext.ingrammicro.com to find out more. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Shelby Skrhak, and our guests today are Cheryl Rang, Executive Director, Advanced Solutions at Ingram Micro, and Aviram Cohen, Ingram's Emerging Business Group, Strategy and Emerging Technologies. Cheryl and Aviram, good to have you here.
Awesome to be back again. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Shelby. It's a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're here because we're talking about application modernization and the importance to organizations in various market verticals. And of course, application modernization ties nicely to cloud adoption and migration. But Cheryl, can you give us a sense of what application modernization really is and what's the driving force behind it?
For sure. So let me start a bit with the second part of your question, which was, the driving force. So digital transformation truly is the driving force behind what we're seeing in the market today. When I think of digital transformation and application modernization, it's really adopting those new cutting edge technologies that we're using to serve the business and move more and more value to the customers. Organizations in the digital era have created so much data, this massive amount of information, and a great deal of it is being housed in the cloud. So applications in the old days were not necessarily built to deal with such amount of data that's fully distributed across these data centers in a timely fashion. So when we're looking at application modernization today, it's bringing these legacy applications to the forefront of technology. Right now, they're holding back the business. They're preventing progress, and it's very time consuming. It's super costly. We saw an article just recently that the IT related federal budget for the U.S., over $80 billion, is just going to maintaining those legacy applications and legacy systems. So app modernization is the process of moving these solutions to support the needs of a modern business today. And modern applications are going to be able to help bring more and more efficiencies, productivity to the workplace while they can still maintain IT budgets at a much more reasonable level.
Let me please add a little more color to it if possible. Cheryl is touching upon two very important points, the digital transformation and the cloud. The digital transformation emphasizes three attributes: automation, efficiency, and cost saving. To handle the amounts of data, to handle mountains of data, as we discussed, automation must be introduced, and with that, efficiency, productivity, customer experience, and many more. Legacy systems cannot keep up with data today. Change is inevitable. Cheryl touched upon the cloud. The adoption of cloud brings new rules to the game. Legacy applications meant to run on a very specific system. The notion of hardware compatibility was very important in the old days, as there was no guarantee that the application will run flawlessly on different environments. The cloud is introducing new ways of running applications: agility, portability, ease of use. Legacy systems did not possess these attributes. They served us very well, but agility and portability, you asked? Not even close.
Right. Well, and I'm glad you bring that up because I do want to come back to agility, portability, and ease of use later in the conversation. But I'd like to talk about the market size and give our listeners a sense of what this market size is. Cheryl, can you shed some light on that topic?
Absolutely. So the trend in the market is suggesting solid growth. It's over a 30% CAGR. And by the end of 2022, the market's expected to reach over 4.3 billion and cross into 5 billion by next year. So as we continue to grow each year, it's just growing faster and faster. 2025, you're up to over $8 billion mark. I think the important thing to notice is that these are also relatively conservative figures. When I look most recently with the pandemic, that's changed the IT mindset dramatically, and migration to the cloud has accelerated even faster. So it's our belief that even the adoption of new technologies are going to follow that trend as well and continuing to accelerate even more. If you think about just the way that we all use applications today differently, even recording this podcast as an example, it's all remote, we're hybrid, we're on phones, we're on applications. So the technology is expecting to be innovative, and that quick agility comes with the needs of modern applications.
Right. Well, and so, so going back to those attributes that Aviram mentioned, I'll point the question to you, Aviram. What are the main differences between legacy applications and modern ones? I mean, how are agility and portability and the ease of use really baked into the core of modern applications today?
This is an extremely important question that will help us understand how application modernization is related to the cloud. Excuse me for doing this, but to understand the agility and portability, I must introduce a buzzword into our discussion, and it's called containers. Don't be alarmed by that. I will explain. Legacy applications were monolithic in nature. Think of it as a huge piece of code. To make it work, a large group of R&D and QA people had to work on all the pieces, glue them together, and thoroughly test them. When something broke at the customer side, the entire application had to come back to the shop for a fix and massive retesting. Testing included the various hardware systems. You remember the hardware compatibility we discussed? This was taken into consideration too. So let's talk now about containers. And remember, monolithic application, huge pieces of code. So now, if we could break the monolithic application to 1,000 autonomous pieces, let's say 1,000 autonomous pieces, and these are containers. So a container is a small software entity. View it as a simple task. A container is totally hardware independent, and it has everything that allows it to freely run in any environment. Again, just to recap, a small software entity that is hardware independent and is equipped with all required elements to execute. Containers, by the way, abstract the application from the physical environment, and this is what we're relating to when we suggest that they are totally hardware agnostic. So once the application is fully tested, a failure in one container will not be catastrophic at all. The fix of a small component is quickly achieved. Testing for hardware compatibility is not even an issue anymore, since containers by their design are isolated from the hardware and can run freely in any environment. So let's try to tie it all together and realize the benefits of modern applications. So think of time to market, time to value, fast delivery of applications, and even fast delivery when things break. Portability. Containers are hardware independent. We touched upon it. Portability between hybrid environments and between clouds are very simple. If you think about Amazon, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, they all deliver similar services to their clients. It is guaranteed that the underlying hardware that each of them is utilizing is totally different. The end user cannot control it. The software developer, too, has no knowledge and cannot control it. Yet, containerized applications, modern applications run identically in each of these environments. So containers also enable fully distributed systems. Given the autonomous nature of the containers and their ability to execute anywhere, distributed systems and or distributed applications are easily achieved with containers. Agility. It's a clear derivative of other attributes of containers like the autonomous nature, portability, being hardware agnostic, and more. Containers literally can jump from place to place. Let's bring efficiency and cost saving into the discussion. These are also immediate outcomes of utilizing these modern applications. Everyone on the chain is benefiting from these: technology vendors, service providers, resellers, and end users. Now we can think about distributed workloads across several systems, migration of workloads from one platform or one cluster to another based on the changing needs. And when we talk about changing needs, consider compute-intensive applications versus memory-hungry ones. And now you can spread the solution or the application among different clusters. So talking about all these goodies, legacy applications were forever glued to a single environment. And that's a huge difference today.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Cheryl, who are the dominant players in the market today, and what kind of tools do they provide to the development community?
So the good news is there's a lot of them out there. The bad news is I bet by the time that this airs, there's going to be even more new players on the market. But the largest ones that we definitely run into and carry are VMware, Red Hat, Amazon, Docker, Google, Cisco. Those are some of the big contenders that provide software development kits to allow for containerized applications and to be able to deploy them in the cloud. Once the applications are created and deployed, we also layer on the ease of portability that Aviram mentioned, and that can come with players like VMware's Tanzu or Red Hat's OpenShift. And we continue to see more and more innovative solutions developed on these platforms to allow for ease of use and migration, truly enabling that multi-cloud endgame. So Ingram has very strong relationships with a lot of these brand names. We're promoting their offerings in our market, our marketplace, and along with training, enablement, partnerships, and helping to aid our partners in their app dev journey. So if anyone out there is listening, you have a project in mind and considering cloud adoption, we'd be delighted to organize these conversations with our tech vendors. So make sure that you reach out.
Well, that raises the question of how do you deal with these legacy applications? What is the future hold for them, Aviram?
Wow, this is deep. This is really deep. So legacy applications are the core asset of every business. These are the backbone entities that drive revenues and ensure smooth operations. In other words, legacy applications are the beating heart of the business and the livelihood of the business. So no one with a clear mind will ever let anyone touch these applications. This is guaranteed. The caveat is that pressing hard on the brakes will not allow the business to make any progress. Migration of legacy applications is therefore imminent. So regardless of the approach, financial investments are unavoidable. Please bear in mind that every approach will be painful. Deployment of a solution at that scale, the configuration and the integration with existing solutions may be lengthy. The spectrum of migrating these legacy applications is wide and is providing several options. The worst approach in my mind is the do-nothing one. Maintaining the status quo means going backward. In a tech world that is moving extremely fast, standing still is the worst approach in any way. Packaging the solution in a single container or spreading it across many containers may do the trick of migrating the application to a new platform in the cloud. This is an excellent interim step. Rewriting the application, the entire application from scratch and adapting it to the cloud is another extreme feat. Considering containers and the new development methodologies, it is more manageable today than 10 years ago. Acquiring a new application to replace the legacy one may only seem simple and straightforward. It is challenging from the integration point of view. All these options are associated with time, money, and definitely headaches, even the do-nothing approach. The best advice, in my mind, is to consult with the experts. Cheryl mentioned the dominant vendors in this space. There are consulting firms that specialize in these two. The challenges up front and along the way are many. Doing it alone may lead to adversity. Doing it opens the door to new innovations that are offered by the cloud, and with it, all kinds of services.
Well, Cheryl, for listeners who have questions about their transformation or their customers' transformation, how can Ingram Micro help, and how can they reach out?
definitely don't be shy. So we have our data center tech force team, of which Aviram is a part of, and more technologists like him that are looking at a lot of these trends and how they can get involved and identify where they can fall into their path of digital transformation. We've got this group of tech consultants. They possess vast knowledge, much more technical than you and me, Shelby, but they have the hands-on experience. And we have over 2,000 tech vendors that span across networking, cybersecurity, automation, the list goes on in all of these data center solutions. So it'd be a great idea to approach them. You can reach them at data-center@ingrammicro.com. So data-center@ingrammicro.com. And you can also reach out to me or Aviram directly. We're both on LinkedIn and happy to connect with you.
Well, that does it for this episode of B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. Aviram and Cheryl, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Cheryl, and good luck to all our audience.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in and subscribing to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. If you like this episode or have a question, please join the discussion on Twitter with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Until next time, I'm Shelby Skrhak.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. This episode was sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production with Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro production handled by Laura Burton and Christine Fan. To not miss an episode, subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform.